So I would like to call this hearing to order. This is the second night. We began last night, January 9th. The notice of intent was filed by the city of Burien. We voted last night to continue the hearing to tonight, and so the hearing is still open. I'm going to ask, just for a show of hands, how many folks were not here last night? Not here. Thank you very much. So I'll ask the indulgence of the others of you here. We'll go through our little opening spiel so everyone will be on the same page. I'll have Mr. Kaufman administer the oath, and we will begin taking testimony as soon as we have dispensed with the preliminaries. I'm going to gloss over some of the longer stuff. This is the Boundary Review Board. We were established by the state legislature in 1967. Most urban counties in Washington state have boundary review boards if they are planning under the Growth Management Act. We are an independent agency. Our purpose is to provide an opportunity for the public to review annexations, incorporations, mergers, and other boundary proposals. Our board has 11 members. 3 members are appointed by the governor, 3 by the cities in King County, 3 by the office of the County Executive, and 2 from the special purpose districts. And the members serve 4-year terms. In addition, the board is served by 3 staff. To my right, Robert Kaufman, our attorney. He's with the Attorney General's office. Lenora Blauman, the executive secretary, to his right, and Reggie Holmes, who's just joining us to her right. This public hearing is to gather the facts in the matter of the City of Burien notice of intention for the annexation of North Highline Area Y. This is a quasi-judicial review. We conduct ourselves in a manner that befits a quasi-judicial review. The request for the board has been filed by a party of standing, and we act as a judge. And we are empowered to hear testimony from the applicant, the parties seeking the review, and members of the public. Following the testimony, the board will make a decision on the proposed action. The board's decision will be based on the record consisting of the file that we have received, these written materials and testimony that you have given us, and exhibits offered at this hearing. We have also asked, as of last night, for the City of Burien, King County, and the Fire District, as well as the Police Chief, to give us additional information. And we gave them a list of questions last night and this morning, and they will be providing answers to our questions. We must base our decision on several factors. Our regulation is encoded in RCW 3693-170, which are the factors to be considered, and 180, which are the objectives. These are our guiding principles. They are in your agenda, and you may look at them as we go through our deliberations. We are not empowered to do other sorts of adjudication, and so, for example, we will not tonight be considering whether or not the city of Seattle, for example, should be annexing this area. We have one purpose, and that is to take the notice of intention that has been filed by the city of Burien and talk about that only. Our decision must be consistent with the State Growth Management Act, the King County Comprehensive Plan, the plans and policies adopted by the City of Burien, and our factors and objectives. Our executive secretary will give us a quick description of the proposal.
I will be happy to do that, but before I do so, I'd like to take the roll. So Mary Lynn Evans, Michael Marchand,
Here.
Evangeline Anderson,
Here.
Charles Booth,
Here.
Sylvia Bushnell.
Here,
Robert Cook has recused himself because he lives in the annexation area. Claudia Hershey,
here,
Laura Casalius,
here.
Ronald Little,
Here.
and Paul McCreary.
Here.
In October of 2011, the applicant, the City of Burien, filed a notice of intention with the Boundary Review Board. the city proposes the annexation of approximately 2,045 acres of land known as the North Highline Y area. This annexation was proposed under the resolution method, which relates to our CW 35A14, and the city adopted this resolution for annexation in order to support orderly, logical growth of governance and provision of coordinated public services and facilities to the North Highline Y area. The city has also planned for an election in order to provide for citizens of the North Highline Y area to vote to join the city or to remain in unincorporated King County. In conjunction with the transmittal of the notice of intention, the city invoked jurisdiction, seeking this public hearing before the Boundary Review Board in order to provide citizens with an independent venue for assessment of the notice of intention for the proposed annexation. North Highline Area Y is located north of the city of Burien. The site is generally bounded on the north by Seattle and King County. The city of Burien, of course, forms the southern boundary line. The western line is formed by the city of Seattle, and the eastern boundary is formed by the city of Tukwila, Highway 99, and similar locations. Before I proceed to turn this over, I would like to clarify, because some questions have come up. If and when this election happens, the people eligible to vote will be living in the annexation area or as registered voters. This election is not open to the citizens of the city of Burien.
At this time, I'd like to ask board members if there are any members who have a conflict of interest, such as a personal or professional involvement or interest, which might affect your ability to, or the perception of your ability, to fairly hear the proposal. At this time, would you so indicate? Have any of you had any ex parte communications with any interested party while this matter has been before us? If anyone present has any reason to question the ability of any board member to hear and judge fairly under the doctrine of appearance of fairness, please say so now. I'd like to ask our legal counsel to give us an overview of the process.
Thank you. Good evening. Since the primary purpose of this hearing tonight is to hear from all of you, there are some procedural rules that we're going to follow, and I'm going to go over those right now. If you'd like to speak this evening, we ask that you sign the roster at the entrance of the building. Probably most of you have already done so, but if any of you have not done so and wish to speak, please do so. If there are any exhibits that you want the board to consider, please submit them to Mr. Holmes or to Ms. Blauman. I will just let you know that as far as exhibits are concerned, once an exhibit is submitted to the board retains it until the board makes a decision on the matter. If there is an appeal from the board to the Superior Court, then the exhibits will go to the Superior Court. If it goes beyond that to the Court of Appeals or the Supreme Court, which there's not likelihood of that, but you may not see your exhibits for a very long time. So be prepared for that. We do ask that you direct your comments to the factors and objectives that the board is required to consider in making its decision. There's a handout at the front table which has an agenda. Included in that are the factors that the board has to consider and the objectives that its decisions are designed or intended to advance. And it's very useful to the board if you focus your remarks on those factors and objectives. We ask that you be brief and non-repetitive as possible. We do want to hear from everyone. I don't mean to exclude anyone's testimony when I say that, but if something has already been said by another citizen, it may not be necessary for you to repeat everything, but perhaps just to indicate that you concur with what has already been said. And I will also add that with certain exceptions, such as government officials, the city of Burien, folks who spoke last night will not have an opportunity again to speak tonight. The procedure as a continuation, we've already heard from representatives of the city of Burien and from King County. The board has asked them to come back to answer specific questions. The city of Burien has a right of rebuttal when all this is finished, and as part of the city's rebuttal process, the board will likely have questions for them. The city has 10 minutes for rebuttal. The purpose of the rebuttal is to give the city an opportunity to respond to what other folks or governmental units have said. It's not designed to repeat what the city said in its initial presentation. I will say, though, that if the board does have questions for the city, that the time that the city takes to answer those questions will not be counted against its 10 minutes. We ask that you please remain silent during these proceedings, and if not, while some of you may agree or disagree with what some of the speakers have to say, we ask that you not display that agreement or disagreement. We ask, as the chair told you a little while ago, this is a quasi-judicial proceeding, so we would like, as closely as possible, to conduct ourselves as if we were in a courtroom. If the board has any legal questions, those are directed to me. When the hearing is closed, and the board will announce that, the board will deliberate and then make a preliminary decision. It's unknown right now if those deliberations will occur tonight, depending on how long of the evening is taken to listen to what to your folks' testimony. It's possible those deliberations will occur on another night and at another location, but if that occurs, we will certainly make you all aware of that. Once at the conclusion of the deliberations, the board will direct the staff to prepare a resolution and hearing decision adopting its decision. The verbal direction to the staff to prepare that resolution and hearing decision is not the action of the board. It sets the action in place, and then once the staff drafts that resolution and hearing decision, it would be voted upon at a regular meeting of the Boundary Review Board, and we'll also make that regular meeting known to you as well, so you know when that vote will be taken. Everything that's being said tonight is being taken down verbatim by a court reporter. Transcripts will be available if anyone is interested, but they're not free. So if you're interested in a transcript, they're available for purchase. Because we are acting in a quasi-judicial capacity, and because we are at rather close quarters, it may be inevitable that during a break or at the conclusion of the hearing that you're going to come into pretty close proximity with the board members. We ask that you not speak directly to the board members unless you are at that podium in the course of the public hearing. The board can only consider what is evidence and testimony that is presented in this public hearing. It cannot consider anything that's said in the hallway or outside, and it won't consider it. So quite frankly, if you do approach a board member to discuss it, you will likely be ignored, but that's not because the board members are being rude, it's because it's their responsibility to limit their information that they receive to what's received in the course of the public hearing. So at this point, I will ask those of you who are able, who intend to testify, and those of you who are able, please stand. And also, if you're able to please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you give this evening will be the truth?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Before we begin the testimony, and the executive secretary will call the list, I wanted to tell you thank you for coming out, for taking your time to give us your opinions. I know many of you have done research, you've done thinking, you've talked to people, you've been soul searching yourselves, and we appreciate it. We feel that this is the way these hearings should operate and the way they should occur. Thank you for taking your time.
We'll begin to call people to testify now. When you are called to the podium, please would you give your name, your address, and let us know whether you live in Burien or the annexation area or somewhere else entirely. If you are an individual citizen representing yourself, you will have 3 minutes to speak. If you are representing a homeowners association or a similar kind of community group, you will have up to 10 minutes. Mr. Holmes is going to be monitoring you with a time clock, and he will notify you when you have 1 minute left to speak. The first person on the list is Mercedes Dantona, and after her will be Andre Lopez.
Good evening, members of the board. It is an honor and a privilege to be here. My name is Mercedes Dantona, D'Antona. My address is 10250 20th Avenue Southwest. I'm in the annexation area. So I am here because I think it is a privilege to be able to voice the desire that I feel in my community to be part of Burien. I think we'll be much better served, and we are a sui generis kind of group composed by different kinds of people, and I think we add color and interest to Burien. So I'm in favor of it. I don't know what much more to say other than I really look forward to it. And as an immigrant, I think it's a great privilege to be able to come and voice my opinion. Thank you very much.
Does the board have any questions?
Andre Lopez, followed by Rebecca Lopez.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Thank you for hearing. My name is Andres Alejandro Antonio Lopez. That's my birth. I'm not sure where I fit on the color wheel, but my name is Heritage. Tell me I'm not white. My wife was at a meeting here last night and came home and told me that people of color were not represented. She also told me how it was stated that the people of color needed social services. Well, I stand before you as a person. I'm a homeowner. I work. I pay taxes. Most of my taxes I pay are down in Burien because that's where I prefer to do my shopping. I think, I own 2 cars. I own a house. I think that the people would benefit by the annexation, by allowing the group of people that would join us in Burien around. I worry that if we don't get annexed by Burien, we have that problem of maybe getting annexed by Seattle, which I think we need to be in Burien. In Seattle, I think we would all just drown. We would kind of disappear and just become nothing. I think what we could add to Burien would be wonderful. Thank you. Do you have any questions? Thank you.
Rebecca Lopez, followed by Steve Porter.
My name is Rebecca Lopez. I live at 10637 19th Avenue Southwest in North Highline. And I will tell you, I am for the annexation to Burien, and this is why I grew up in Seattle and lived in both North and South Seattle. I experienced living in privileged neighborhoods and not so privileged neighborhoods. And what I mean by that is some residents get what they demand, and there are always those who are passed over, and money plays a lot in that arena. As I sit back and observe, I have seen something different in Burien. I noticed that there are those that think they're privileged and deserve more than others, and I see that the Burien City Council listens to all and doesn't seem to think that one group deserves more than others who may or may not be as vocal. I have lived in North Highline for 24 years and have watched a community that people would love to have their community be like. A community where if something goes wrong, they band together and try to make it right. Is that tough in North Highline? You better believe it. I have never lived in a community that fights so hard. I was here last night when people from Burien talked about my community, as well as every Burien council meeting regarding the annexation. When they talked about my community, I kept coming back to sit and listen to people that would never set foot in my neighborhood say the most horrible things. I guess they sleep well at night because they make the statement that those people need social services that Burien can't provide. Let me tell you, the people in my community have pride and would rather have a job than depend on social services. They would like to be homeowners, business owners, and they want the best for their kids. There have been some people that believe in North Highline and find its worth. Bill and Melinda Gates thought our kids were worth investing in. And the Access Technology Foundation have also thought our kids are worth investing in. My suggestion to people of Burien who evidently have so much time on their hands to research these facts that they twist to favor their interest is maybe if you use your free time to invest in these kids you seem to think need social services. And maybe do something like tutoring or mentoring these kids that are in your school district, then the next generation will not have to depend on social services and your tax dollars can go to those things you feel Burien is lacking. When we don't see beyond ourselves and our needs, we cannot complain about what is happening in our neighborhoods. As far as the King County Library Board, I think they all should be renewed for believing our community does not need a library. They held one of their board meetings at our tiny little library, and as we sat there waiting the fate of our library, the first thing on their agenda was a 250-car parking lot for the library in Bellevue.
Your time is up. Could you sum up, please?
Okay, I let them know how sensitive it was and let them hear that the parking lot was not more important than our libraries. I just ask that we get a chance to work with our neighbors, and if people will work with their neighbors, that a great community can be built between the two communities.
Any questions from this? Thank you.
Steve Porter, followed by Rachel Levine.
Good evening, my name is Steve Porter. I'm at 160 South 116th Street. I did want to use my young son Harry as an exhibit, but seeing how you would have to keep him until the season, so I thought against that. He and my family would be a fine addition to Burien. And looking into the future, we're on annexed by the good folks of Burien. Sooner or later it would be Seattle, and I believe we would be better served by Burien. And any issues or concerns that you see in the Highline area Y that I am part of, that you would have better control to deal with if it was Burien. Thank you.
Questions from this board?
Rachel Levine and Martha, and I'm probably going to mispronounce this, so I apologize. Kester.
We say Levine, that would be Levine,
Well, good evening, and thank you for giving us this opportunity to talk about our great North Highline community. My name is Rachel Levine, and I live at 430 South 124th Street, Burien, 98168-2069. And I am making a statement in favor of proceeding with annexation vote for Area Y of North Highline. I have lived at the same street address for 48 years. We changed our city address when we were annexed to the city of Burien in 2009. I voted to become part of Burien because I saw this as the first step in providing local access to the governance of our entire North Highline community. The Burke study clearly states that it is a financial policy study and not a budget development exercise. That has bothered me with the statements that were made yesterday, because these are not budget development exercise. This is a policy statement. For me, this is part of the due diligence that the city of Burien has provided in preparation for the annexation of Area Y. I hope you will consider what the division of North Highline between two bodies of governance would mean to our entire community. A sense of community depends a great deal in shared institutions, including the Highline School District, early learning and daycare programs, libraries, and sacred spaces, whether religious or places that honor our natural world, such as parks. Our shared history includes commerce, art, organizations, and the experiences of both early and more recently arrived residents. We raise money and provide volunteers for food banks, environmental education, and schools. We all shop in all the small and larger commercial areas. And I only have 3 minutes, I know, but I do need to tell you that I am the president of the White Center Library Guild. I can speak for those members because we have been defending the presence of both the library in Boulevard Park and the White Center Library for the last 2 years. Last summer, we collected 2,000 signatures to support our libraries. And finally, I want to say this. Having access to the governing body that most closely affects one's everyday life provides a sense of fairness that is essential for the health of the overall community. We're looking for fairness so people can vote on what they want to do. Thank you very much.
Yeah, there's questions. Thank you.
I'm Martha Kester. That last name is spelled Poester. I live at 10015 Second Avenue South within the annexation area Y. I've lived there for 30 years, and I'm here because I'm afraid that if we don't connect to Burien, I and my neighbors are going to lose a couple of very important things. Possibly, we might lose the fire protection of a professional fire department and go back to volunteers only. I don't want to see that happen. The other thing is that the libraries are an incredible resource. I can still get a lot of advanced science stuff right through the White Center Library or Boulevard Park, and that often saves me a trip up to the UW Medical Library. And when I like to go to these neighborhoods because I like to see those study groups of those eager young scholars taking over those rooms and helping each other out. It came to my attention yesterday that the word overserved was used with respect to these kids, and I very much resent that. What they need to say is not worthy of service, and I stand strongly against that. Thank you.
The next two, I'm going to take a flying leap here. Philip Levine and Bob Price.
My thanks to the board for letting us speak. My name is Philip Levine at 430 South 124th Street in Burien. I've lived in the Highline area since 1963, incorporated into Burien 2 years ago. My sons had a studio for a number of years in White Center. I'm on the board of the White Center Arts and was one of the founders of the Burien Arts Gallery. My family and I have been active in the Highline community for all those years, and I want to specify that it is the Highline community that I'm talking about, which is why I favor annexation. The oath given by us all to the board should have included speaking the truth as I see it, as I see it. Many numbers were given out and used to make specific points. I feel that numbers were selected which were picked out and used to create a truth. The board has heard these numbers, but has the board researched and investigated these numbers and their impact on annexation? The review of numbers should be interpreted as to their real or truthful impact, not the impact read out by those using them for their gains. These presentations have been buttressed by their truth of what they mean, but they may not be everyone's truth. It is up to the board to make these annexation boundary decisions, assessing the total impact and in terms of societal and community impact. Thank you.
Questions? No questions.
Bob Price and Patrick Mosley.
Thank you. My name is Bob Price. I live at 10905A, Glen Acres Drive South, Boulevard Park. I am in favor of annexation of Burien for several reasons. I'll go over them as quick as I can. First of all, I lived in Seattle for 20 years when I first moved here from Oregon. I never got any service that I applied for or tried to get from the Seattle people that I worked with. Unfortunately, at one time, the mayor was even in my reserve unit where I could choke him, and I still didn't get anything. So I moved to White Center in 1980. I just recently moved to Boulevard Park because of it, several things taking care of the house. But I'd like to go to Burien for several reasons. One of the main reasons I have attended the Burien City Council meetings for about the last year and a half, 2 years. And they listen to the peon meet. They meet at night where people can get available to talk to them. They're not always able to solve our problems, but they at least listen to our problems. And there's always a good reason why they can't solve our problems. Both of it has to do with funding or prior problems. Also, I would like to say that the Seattle Fire Department and the Police Department are great, but they have a crime problem north of us that they haven't been able to solve with their new precinct. That scares me to death if we went into Seattle. Also, a changeover with the schools and the fire department in the Highline area would be much smoother to go to Burien. There's not going to be too much of a problem at all, but it'd be much smoother if all the schools in Highline were in the Burien area, and the fire departments work fantastically together. They signed a letter of agreement, they work closely together, there's no problems at all that I know of. I go to the fire commissioner's meetings every week, every month. Also, if I lived in Burien, I would want to get control of Area Y because of the problems of crime in that area, and you don't want to leave it loose for somebody else to solve. If you can control it, then you should get your hands on it if at all possible. So I hope that people will vote with facts and not with fear. Thank you.
Questions?
Patrick Mosley and then Gilbert Lauren.
My name is Patrick Mosley. I live at 2802 Southwest 112th Street in the area Y on the Burien border. I moved to West Seattle for a piece of my American dream, which is to buy a house and raise my 2 kids. If I had known what I was getting into, I can't say that I'd make the same decision. I've done a lot of cuts in the police department, working cuts in the fire department, and in enforcement in very serious areas. And I'm not really sure if West Seattle was given a fair shake or a chance to thrive in ways that it could. I believe that if Burien took it over, that things would be a little better. I can't say that they would be perfect, but at least some of the things that the different councils and business owners are trying to make a change would have the ability to do so in that way. Hopefully this council will consider all the people that have come here, the good and the bad, and know that our overall goal is to make a safe environment for everyone that wants to live in the Metropolitan area. And hopefully there will be governmental agencies that will allow us to do so. Thank you for your time.
Any questions for Mr. Wilson? Yes, sir. Which area did you say you lived in?
I live on the Burien border, Shorewood, 112th and 28th.
And you're in this potential annexation?
Yes, I am.
Questions? Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Gilbert Lauren. And after that will be Pat Price.
I'm Gilbert Lauren. I live at 10009 20th Avenue Southwest, northwest corner of the potential annexation area. And I'm speaking as co-chair of Friends in North Shoulder Park, so I may take somewhat more than 3 minutes, but probably less than 10 minutes. First of all, I want to thank the Planning Review Board for having me here. This is unusual. Most fundamental agencies that we've met with over the years tend to be other places. and picked the library at large when they had their meetings on his block. It's a long drive. So why am I here? First, just a very brief family history. My name, Laurie, comes from Alsace-Lorraine, border of France in Germany. My family moved to the East Coast. They did kind of a westward migration across the United States, picking up a little bit of Indian blood, a little bit of African American blood along the way, everybody. And then we landed in Western Washington, where I was born. I worked at the FedEx Cancellation Center for 25 years and was looking for a place to buy. It was one of the things, what did I afford to buy? White Center. I've been living in West Seattle, I couldn't afford to move to West Seattle, and actually I was really glad it worked out that way. The first week I was here, stopped by a Safeway store, which is where now the Department of Social Health Services building is, and I walked in, get some milk and eggs or something like that, you know. And I thought, wow, there are people of different colors here. It was really a revelation. There's some different ethnic groups I at that time could identify. I'm a little bit better at it now, but not much. So I found a home here in North Highline. Obviously I live near downtown White Center at this point. I've got involved in White Center, my partner and myself, involved in a new act meetings, North Highline unincorporated council meetings for many years, kind of a thorn in the side of things. With a friend of mine, a neighbor and friend, Kristen Waltman, co-chair of Friends of North Shorewood, we formed Friends of North Shorewood back in early 2005. The neighbors helped. A lot of neighbors helped out. It's great. We also had help from the White Center Community Development Association with a spring clean and continued that over the years. Even marked up the scout group. One person up for Eagle Scouts have helped build a trail in the park. So we continue to work with the Parks Department there, with Dan and Dean and Mark. We have a great crew, a really great crew from King County Parks at this point. Joined the White Center Library Guild a couple of years ago because the library board was trying to purchase North Newtown Park, using First Avenue near Albertsons. I won't go into the whole thing, just to say that I followed it since then. I believe that we need our libraries. I know that we're overserved, quote unquote. I know there's a higher percentage of library square footage than the rest of King County, but we have an area that's economically depressed, a lot of poor people, and they need that access. You go to the library, you see them there, using all the time. Graffiti has been a problem in White Center, as it is throughout the area, Seattle. My partner and I walk through the White Center area virtually every day. I take pictures, I ID locations, and send them on to the gang detectives and to Bong Store in Reno, who is the King County liaison for this area, who then connects with the DOC crew to clean and or pave them out, as well as I take graffiti remover and remove what I can. Fire district, I attend almost all the meetings for about 2.5 years now, so I try to keep track of what's going on. There's some real problems at the fire department company. So why annexation? My partner and I prefer to be part of Burien. Followed this for many years. I've heard all these kind of meetings involved, being sponsored by North Highline Council, by King County, by Burien. I've spoken at Seattle City Council meetings, Burien City Council meetings, and I'm meeting in this very room here several years ago before the other annexation, previous annexation was there. And let me tell you, never in my life had I felt peace. I felt peace that night for minority groups. I was amazed. I'm amazed partly because I'm a gay male, so I'm a little more sensitized to that, but I couldn't believe it. I never felt a sense like that. So we need Burien to think it'll be a local government, as other people said, listen to us. We want to work with Burien. We love to take care of our own community. And I met a young lady today at White Center Chamber Commerce Luncheon, and she said, she moved here in November, she said, I live here already. And she said, I picked up right away that this is a community with a lot of energy that's willing to put its energy where its mouth is and do things to help each other. I think that's what we're all about. Thank you.
Questions for Mr. Murray? Thank you, sir.
Pat Price, Tanya Anguset.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the board. As some of the others have said, thank you for coming to our community to listen to us. My name is Pat Price. My address is 10905 Glen Acres Drive South. That is in the Boulevard Park community, on the wrong side of the street to already be in Burien. The line was drawn 2 years ago right across from where we live, but because I followed this with much interest over many years, this topic, I stand before you again to say our community deserves Burien governance. We have put up with and biding our time with King County to hopefully come to this point where you will soon decide to let Burien move on with this annexation. I've lived in the White Center community for over 30 years, have daughters that went through this very school and the school next door who are, now grown young women, moved recently to Boulevard Park because we liked the Highline community so much that we weren't going to go very far when we needed to downsize from a house too big for us. We have a history with these Highline schools, the Highline Hospital, our doctors. I am a member of the North Highline unincorporated area council, a board member of the local library guild. As a founding board member of the White Center South Delridge Community Safety Coalition, which we haven't really spoke to you of last night or tonight, so I thought I would just briefly tell you about that. That is an organization started about 7 years ago when there was what was called weed and seed money, and I don't know if you're familiar with that term. It actually comes from the federal justice program. And White Center, on both sides of Roxbury, was deemed a weed and seed area. That means you get some extra money for policing and you weed out the bad and try to plant some good in your communities. By belonging to that organization, we learned a lot about the differences between King County policing and Seattle police. The residents of both Seattle and King County, North Highline, came to those meetings monthly, shared information with the police officers there, and we learned that those of us on the county side actually had better service and better attention from our King County deputies, less complaints than the Seattle residents had talking to those officers that came right from up the street on Delridge. Just a little something I wanted to share with you about the policing topic. Thank you.
Questions for Ms. Price? Thank you very much.
Tanya Anguset and Stephanie Dodson.
Hello, my name is Tanya Anguset. You said it right. 1449 Southwest 152nd in Burien. This is regarding RCW 3693-180.
Louder, please.
Preservations of natural neighborhoods. White Center would be divided. 1/3 is in Seattle, 2/3 are in King County. Other townships are complete within Seattle city boundaries such as Ballard, Wallingford, Green Lake, and Fremont. It would seem best for residents to have a choice between Seattle and Burien on the same ballot. P.S. I would like to see the two neighborhood libraries stay as is.
Any questions?
Are you a resident of the annexation area of Burien?
Thank you. Thank you again for allowing us to speak. My name is Commander Stephanie Jan Dotson, United States Public Health Service. I have lived in the proposed annexation area since I was a gleam in my father's eyes 69 years ago. My parents came here from Gresham, Oregon to work in the shipyards during World War II. They lived in the old projects, I was born there, which are of course now Greenbridge. They bought a house at the corner of 4th and 104th Avenue Southwest, to be specific, 10256, expecting that they would be annexed by Seattle momentarily. That was the talk as soon as the projects were torn down. Well, I don't have to tell you how long it took to tear the dang projects down. And rest their souls, they never got to live to see their property become a part of the city of Seattle. I spent some months caring for my cousin with dementia and her partner with cancer in Florida, and I can assure you nobody in Florida has ever heard of Burien, Washington. I support annexation to Seattle. I've wanted to be a part of Seattle my whole life, as did my parents, and I feel like there are a lot of people who really have come into this community. This is my junior high school. This is the cafeteria where I danced with Mike Managlia in 1958 at a 3 o'clock junior high dance. And I feel quite strongly that Burien doesn't begin to have the resources or even the philosophy to support us. 1/3 of this community already resides within the boundaries of the city of Seattle. I call your attention to the map and look at Roxbury Street, and you can see the areas where unincorporated areas project into Seattle, and you can see where smaller areas of incorporated Seattle project into unincorporated King County. We need a unified community here. We do not need to be split. We have not been able to control the crime in this community, and I firmly believe that has to do with the fact that we have a split policing organizations that can't seem to work together under any circumstances. And so I absolutely am opposed to Burien annexing this. I want to mention two other things quickly. My review of the City of Burien's financial condition does not appear to be sustainable to me. And I'm not an expert in city finance, but boy, it doesn't look good at all from where I sit. But my main concern is what has happened with my husband. He is a Korean War veteran. He suffers from dementia, and the senior services of the city of Burien have absolutely refused to work with the Veterans Administration Hospital in providing recovery services for veterans. And I'm very, very disgusted by what their senior citizen department has done, and I want no part of it. Thank you.
Any questions? Thank you very much.
Elizabeth Gordon, followed by Christine Waldron.
Elizabeth Gordon. I reside at 8601 24th Avenue Southwest,
on the Seattle side. My husband and I own Uncle Mike's Superlicious Barbecue in White Center, located at 9640 16th Avenue Southwest in the proposed annexation area. So it seems that a lot of the people have spoken about their own experiences and whether they've been positive or not so positive and how it's affected them. So I'm going to give you a little bit about my experiences of living north of Roxbury and owning a business south of Roxbury. I believe very strongly that what makes a community healthy are strong, vital relationships. And when that happens, a community thrives. And what we have seen since we've been in business in White Center is a community coming together and thriving. It was coming together before we got there, but it seems that it is just with the return of the White Center storefront deputy and with some of the coordination among some of the different White Center organizations, that beautiful things are happening. And I think that in part that is because the relationships are able to be established among the different community organizations and with the local government entities. From living in, and from the first responders. Living in Seattle, when we call about activity that happens at our little dead end, we never know who's going to show up and who they are, and so there's not an opportunity to establish a relationship. However, being located in the business district in White Center, we know who the storefront deputy is. Before that, we knew who the 3 or 4 regular deputies, because there was a regular patrol, and not only in the street, but back in the alley that's behind. And I would have to, the business owners have also started a merchants association. And we've worked with the White Center Chamber of Commerce, we've worked with the North Highline Area Council, we've worked with, there's a whole group looking at homelessness issues. There's, we all got together and did a tree lighting together for the area of White Center. And I think that in establishing these relationships, the business area and the residential area is becoming stronger. Now, it's true there have been some problems with crime in the White Center area. However, it's also true that all the major crime activity that has happened, that perpetrators have been caught, and justice is working its way through the legal system. So that's a positive thing because people know each other and because those information can be shared with law enforcement. Unfortunately, this summer we had a fire in our business and the whole kitchen burned. We smoked meat and it's very delicious, so you can come try it. But the smoker blew up, and the North Highline Fire Department responded quickly, and one of the things that we really appreciate is that the people who do respond really care about what's going on, and they do follow up, and you see them again and again and again. Another reason why we believe, so that's one of the reasons that as business owners, we think that annexation with Burien would be advantageous. The area needs a local government, and so far, Burien, as far as accessing government, personnel has been much more responsive. Their personnel have come to the meetings our Merchants Association has had, and they've been very, I would say, sensitive to the issues that we've raised as well. So I think for all of these reasons, and most of all, I think as soon as possible in the future, there needs to be a unified strategy where everybody's coming together on a governmental level, policy level, not the many organizations and community folks who have a vested interest in the White Center area. We're all doing what we can. However, having a local government that can come alongside and give assistance and support, I think White Center would just knock the socks off of everybody. And that's why we're going to keep our business there. Thank you.
Questions from the board? Yes.
You said you live in the community, but you live within the city limits of Seattle. So I just want to be sure you have no issue, even though you live in that community, with your business being in a different jurisdiction than where you live.
Oh, no. I mean, we have customers and we do business on both sides of Roxbury. And I know a number of people have come up, and they've been longtime folks here, that have said that the Roxbury divide does create a difference in being in two different governmental areas. And what we have actually found is that it hasn't created a problem for us, and actually we very much appreciate being able to, that our business is in the unincorporated side, because that means that we have access to the area council. That means we have access to City of Burien, the King County deputies that regularly patrol there. It means that we're better able to form those relationships where those folks know what's going on at our place, and we know who we're talking to when we pick up the phone. And as a business, that is extremely helpful and supportive. It gives us a sense of stability that I don't think that we would have if our business was on the other side. So, thank you. Did they answer your question?
Just one other question. Thank you as a business owner for being here tonight. How long have you been in business in the area, annexation area?
This summer we'll be in business for 2 years. So it hasn't been long, but we've been there for a number of the, I guess you could say, some of the tumultuous changes that have happened in White Center from before there was a storefront deputy to afterwards, and for the federal investigation that went on. And in fact, in my work with the Safety Coalition, the White Center Safety Coalition, the U.S. Attorney's office had said that they chose White Center for their investigation as opposed to another area of unincorporated King County because of the way that Burien, King County, Seattle, White Center, but the community there, the White Center community, came together, and that the people who live and work there are so invested in it. And I think that's recognized, more easily recognized with working with Burien. Thank you.
Other questions? Thank you, Ms. Lord.
Christina Waldman and Suzanne, it looks like Rivera, representing the Business and Economic Development Board.
Good evening, members of the board. Thank you for this opportunity to speak.
Step very close to the microphone.
Good evening, members of the board. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Christine Waldman, and I am a 9-year resident of 10216 20th Avenue Southwest in the White Center neighborhood of North Highline. I've attended many of the annexation study meetings in the past, and I am in support of the North Highline annexation to Burien, bringing our communities back together. I just want to let you all know that contrary to what you were told last night, you can walk the streets of White Center without being mugged or murdered. Thank you.
Questions from the board? Thank you.
So then Suzanne, I'm sorry, but I just can't read this name. And after that is Walt, it could be Culver.
My name is Suzanne Bree. I'm a resident of Burien. I was in a recently annexed division. I am a homeowner for 15 years. I'm also a business owner. I'm a member of the Business and Economic Development Panel. I also run a program called Cut Out Hunger for Burien, and I'm a volunteer for White Center Food Bank. I think that we should finish what we started. I have confidence in our Burien government and our finance manager manager and our city manager and then our city council, that they'll do the right thing for our neighbors. I think that it's important for us to just finish and show our neighbors that we care about them. When you come here tonight, I think you get the opportunity to let you know that, Sally.
Questions, Ms. Lee? Thank you.
And then,
my name is Walt Creekmore, and I'm a resident in the area that's the potential annexation area, as well as a business owner in that area. I'm also a delegate for the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 302. We have a number of members who live in the area, and a couple of signatory employers that are in the annexation area. Everyone that I've spoken to within those groups is in favor of annexing Burien in Seattle because of dealing with the climate for our type of folks and our type of business is much better in Burien.
Questions? Thank you.
Dan Bennett, followed by Ted Radford.
Thank you for the opportunity to go ahead and speak here. I am Don Bennett. I, for 24 years, have lived at 14240 8th Avenue South in Burien. And I've been an advocate for Burien annexation of the North Highline area since this was first brought up, I believe, about 4 years ago. There's already been discussion about the way that fire protection, police protection, library services, and the school district all overlap in this area, and the disruption that would happen if the annexation went to Seattle rather than Burien. What hasn't been mentioned so far is the water district and the sewer district. These also are coterminous with North Highline and what used to be the entire Highline area. Since this has started, I've been intrigued with some of the people in Burien talking about those people in White Center. About the time that this started, 3 or 4 years ago, the Seattle Times went ahead and did a Sunday section front page article about affordable housing, broken down by neighborhoods. Looked at White Center, Tukwila, SeaTac, Burien. Actually, at that point, the median house cost was a little bit higher in White Center than it was in Burien. The crime incidence reports actually were lower in White Center than they were in Burien. It's an area which is very compatible with what I have seen in my 24 years of living in Burien. Thank you.
Questions for Mr. Bennett? Mr. Bennett, I just want to make sure that you're clear, as well as for the other folks here, that we do not have any intention, notice of intention from the city of Seattle. So right now, we're just dealing with the question of would the annexation go to Burien?
Well, the other thing I was going to say is the only decision here right now is when and how soon are the residents of North Highline going to get to vote on this. I think we need to go ahead and, as somebody said earlier, move it on. Let's get this taken care of. Give the citizens of this area wide the opportunity to vote on their annexation. Thank you.
Following Ted Radford will be Victoria Barbosa and then Justin Kahn.
Good evening. My name is Ted Radford, and
and we live at 10256 4th Avenue Southwest. Before I go any further on this, I would just like to object to part of this annexation. I would like to see them cut the street off at 108th Southwest, and instead of being up there at Roxbury. We get our water from the city of Seattle. We get our electricity from the city of Seattle. I've got a long history with the city of Seattle. In 1943, I got lost in a building downtown that my family built. That is, the Bon Marché building was built by the Radford family, and a lot of other property downtown that goes up in the air was built by them. We have a long history, and both my wife and I have attended the University of Washington, which just happens to be in Seattle. When I went there, I became a police officer, and it was the city of Seattle that trained me as a police officer, and almost all of your police officers out here in the county are trained with the help of the city of Seattle. We would just like to object to total annexation of this area. We think it should be a little further south, say 6 blocks further south. And that way we don't have to change our address. I really don't know where Burien is at. And by the way, I'd like to say to Mr. Lopez there, arriba y adelante con la raza. I am very proud in our country that we have people from all over. The Quinn part of my family came over here in 1846 due to a potato famine in Ireland. And the Radfords were a long time here. They were, well, Lewis and Clark were Irish, but Juan de Fuca was not, and neither was Chief Self. So I'm very proud of our country that we recognize these things. Vaya con Dios, Mr. Lopez.
Questions, Mr. Radford?
Pardon?
No questions.
Thank you.
Victoria Barbosa, followed by Justin Klein.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Victoria Barbosa. I live at 9822 21st Avenue Southwest in the annexation area. I live in the annexation area, and I'm a registered nurse. I work in Bellevue, but I live 6 blocks from White Center. I'm happy to hear that the business owners are working together there to improve it. I have teenagers, and I don't allow them to go to White Center because, as far as I can tell, it's an area characterized by public drunkenness, drug dealing, and prostitution. This is not because the people in White Center are any worse than any other people. It's because they lack the services and the regulations that allow incorporated areas to be a healthy community. And I really think that we need to be incorporated as part of Burien, and that there is a huge market for serious businesses in White Center. There are people all around there that have money to spend and go other places to spend it, because I don't want to go to tattoo parlors or porn shops. I would love to go to a movie theater or decent restaurants, and I'm glad to hear there are some. I think that an annexation would enable both communities to improve and to face a better future together. Thank you.
Questions from Ms. Barbosa?
You said you live in the annexation area?
Yes. Justin Klein, followed by J.J. Grieve.
My name is Justin Klein. I'm the owner of Full Tilt Ice Cream, and I live at 118, just a few blocks from here. Full Tilt Ice Cream was founded 4 years ago in White Center. I'm here to speak mostly because the president of our Chamber of Commerce last night pretty much railed against White Center, said it was a cesspool. We also started a White Center Business Association mostly because our Chamber of Commerce has just completely failed us. White Center has a vibrant business district. I was able to open 3 other stores in 3 years because of the business that I have in White Center. It has a lower crime rate than the West Seattle Junction. It has a lower crime rate than Burien. I also own stores in the U District, which has horrible crime rates, Columbia City, and now Ballard. I think White Center has a lot to offer to Burien, to people in general. I just think Burien's a better match as a business owner. I know that if we go with Seattle or Burien, both of them are going to screw us one way or the other. It's just how it's going to happen. But owning businesses around Seattle, I've seen how Seattle deals with their, and once again, I know we're not dealing with Seattle possibly annexation, but this is why I'm stressing that I want Burien to do this. I've seen how Seattle deals with their South End neighborhoods, specifically South Park, where I own a store, like I said, in Columbia City. If you look at Columbia City, it's a great neighborhood, and it's really well policed for 3 blocks of white-owned businesses. I am just outside those 3 blocks, and it's a terrifying neighborhood after dark. I've seen what Seattle can do. They just do not care about their South End neighborhoods. I would love for Columbia City to have the crime rate the White Center does. It's much, much lower. It's much safer here. I think that's about all I have to say.
Question to Mr. Tom. Mr. Tom?
Yes.
You mentioned crime rates in other communities. Or were you comparing those other communities because you own stores there, or just advising us on where you also business?
Well, I own stores there, but also, if you look at it, White Center does not have the high crime rate. It's not, the center, it's not a cesspool like people are really trying to make it out to be. But yeah, there's a much higher, owning a business in the U District and Columbia City, there's much more crime that we have to deal with than what I have to deal with here.
Those are the 2 that you experience as being high.
Right. Even Ballard, which is a pretty high-end neighborhood. I have somebody that sleeps in my doorway every night. I have graffiti every day that I have to deal with. That I've never had to deal with here. All right.
J.J. Grieve and Tara Heineke.
Hello, my name is J.J. Grieve. I'm a resident of Burien, recently annexed portion, and I'm here to state that I think that we should continue to annex, and White Center should be a part of our city. And there's just one really basic reason behind it, and it's no matter what happens, White Center will always be our neighbors. They will always be there. And if they are a part of Seattle, I'm afraid they're going to be an underserved community, as many neighborhoods in Seattle are. Burien is a much smaller community, and I am actually quite involved in the Burien government. And I know that they care about White Center. They're not going to go away, and I think we should welcome them into our community. And I want to say I vehemently object to the characterization that was made about White Center. It's just a couple of speakers before saying it's nothing but a place of porn shops and prostitution and drug dealing. I don't deny that those things go on, and they go on in all neighborhoods. But White Center is a vibrant community. It's culturally diverse. It's full of hard-working people, and I think the words I would use would not apply to this meeting. Okay? I think that we should welcome White Center into here. Thank you.
Questions for Mr. Reed? Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Tara Jo Heineke. I live at 622 Southwest 104th Street, and I am in the unincorporated area at this time. I purchased my home here just under 3 years ago. I lived for the previous 15 years in Des Moines. I have a pretty good awareness of civic participation and structure within Burien. I chaired the 33rd District Democrats for 4 years, and a portion of our constituents were from the city of Burien. I also served on the King County Charter Review Commission, among other kinds of civic groups. And like you, had the opportunity to be in virtually every county council district taking testimony from folks that had lots to say about whether or not their particular area should be incorporated or unincorporated or affected by the critical areas ordinances and that sort of thing. So I moved into this area being pretty well versed on the pros and the cons of living in an unincorporated area. I don't suffer under any illusion that this is a panacea, that if we incorporate with the city of Burien, that all of our problems will be solved, any more than I suffer under the illusion that for the citizens of Burien, life will go, everything will go to hell in a handbasket if annexation were to take place. It does appear to me, though, that the greater community of interest would lie in annexation of the city of Burien. I think somebody just mentioned that they'd like to see the dividing line being 108. Well, I live on 104th, which would leave me in like an 8-block Oreo kind of reverse swath of unincorporated area, and I don't think that that's going to benefit anybody in the long run either. I think that at this point, those folks that have strong feelings one way or another from outside the unincorporated area have had many opportunities to give voice to what their concerns and issues might be. It's time to give the citizens that are affected in the unincorporated area the opportunity to express their voice and vote one way or another, rather than to suppress them through these kinds of measures where people choose to affix names and images that aren't necessarily representative of the community. Thank you.
This concludes the number of people who have been signed up to speak. If you wanted to speak and did not have a chance to sign up, this would be your time to let us know, please. Seeing none.
Since we continued our hearing from last night, we did have some questions for a couple of the agent seats. So I'd like to call Ms. Freeman to the podium from King County to answer some of the questions. And then is there anyone here from the fire district?
Good evening. Again, for the record, I'm Karen Freeman and I work for King County. And my address is 401 5th Avenue, Suite 810, Seattle, Washington, 98104. That's where our offices are located. Madam Chair, the board asked me to bring 3 pieces of information, and Mr. Holmes passed out some handouts for you. Why don't I tell you briefly what I brought, and then if there are questions about each of them, we can go back to them. I brought a chart that details surface water management fees for King County. This chart also happens to detail fees for cities which contract with the county for us to provide fee collection services. So that's this big chart, and it has fish and stuff on it. So that's one handout that I brought. The board also asked for clarification about human services, and so I provided 2 handouts. One is a chart that details at the bottom the regional human services that King County provides, and at the top the 2 local human services that we're currently providing in the annexation area, and some bullets that address both of those topics. And then the last handout that I brought, the board had asked for some sort of figure checking with assessed evaluation to compare to the figures that were provided in the Burke study.
So I talked to our chief economist, and he pulled together very quickly some information that supports the assumptions that were made in the bird study. So those are the 3 handouts that and thank you. And that is this one pager with the chart at the bottom. Are there any questions that I can try to answer about these documents?
Before you leave, I think we asked you specifically, King County and the city could speak to stormwater.
Madam Chair, we cannot hear you.
We asked specifically King County and the city, stormwater fees are the same or different?
And indeed, they are different. King County's fees are larger than the fee that would be charged by the city of Burien. The column that you want to look at is the first column, which says number 1 residential. That's primarily the fees that we're talking about. So King County's fee is $133 per parcel, and Burien's is $120.
Questions on that?
Yeah. Those are the user fees that were mentioned in the report. So why wasn't that included as part of it says in the report that the assumption, or there's a number of assumptions. There wasn't really an explanation as to why that wasn't included as part of the fiscal study.
You know, I can't speak to the content of the study that was provided by Burke for the city of Burien, but I'm sure that they can entertain that question
You
when
say
they
the
come
user
back.
fees are less.
Correct.
Any other questions on the use?
I did want to, oh, sorry. Yes, oh, so on the human services issue, if there's no more questions about the stormwater. So I think I'm correct in assuming that I think what the board was looking for was to determine whether or not the majority of human services that are currently being provided by the county in the annexation area will continue to be provided, and the answer is yes. There are 2 local services that we provide, which mainly relate to some senior services and public defense services that the county would no longer provide should Burien annex. However, those services would be provided by Burien, and service levels, of course, differ from municipality to municipality, and that would be up to their purview about what level they're going to provide those services. But the bulk of the services, the regional human services that we provide, which are backed by a levy, will continue to be provided. And that list is at the bottom of this larger chart that I've provided to you. For the length of the levy. And the levy, of course, is something that we think is very valuable and that we will continue to pursue the support of the residents of King County to keep that levy going. So for the life of the levy. And we just, I believe the citizens just re-upped, and so I believe in another couple of years, we're going to go back to the voters. But we've had a lot of great success with the levy, and we're very grateful to the citizens of King County for supporting these critical human services.
So there's no difference between this and the rest all county?
Correct. This number is 368 million. These are services that are provided countywide.
Karen, could you speak directly into the microphone?
Yes, sorry.
And also, Mr. Booth, we didn't hear your question.
And also our board members.
Yes, Mr. Booth was asking if these services are provided countywide, and indeed they are.
What I was saying is that these services are very well provided across county with all jurisdictions. There's no
Correct.
difference there.
This is, I'm sorry, I just want to clarify, this is a countywide, this figure is countywide for all jurisdictions.
Correct.
There's no difference with interlocal agreements.
Correct. We do provide, however, I will clarify that the county provides the majority of these services, I think nearly all of them, by contract. But they are funded by the levy and they're available countywide.
That was actually going to be part of my question, which was the local services that the county will discontinue, specifically the Burien senior services. Is that ever something that beyond within a local agreement, or is that, and in other annexation cases?
Yes, sir, we're always open to discussions with cities about potential contract opportunities, and we would look forward to having that discussion with Burien should they want to have it.
What was the second one, besides the senior services that we know of?
Public defense, which of course would be provided by the city. And then I think that the last handout about assessed valuation is pretty self-explanatory. These figures come from economic forecasts that our economists provide to the executive and the council.
This is in response to our question, was somewhat about the assessed valuation and where those figures actually came from. And do you know if these were used by the work study?
I don't know, but I can, I'm sure that they can address that when they come up. I will say that when I spoke to our economist, he said that the figures that are used in the birth study are generally the same types of figures that most economists in the region are using. Their numbers are good, conservative, he said, actually.
Evangeline Anderson, we were supplied tonight with 2 pieces of paper. This one,
yes,
which I believe you generated.
Yes.
I'm not sure.
And that one is mine too. Those bullets are just
so
to help flesh out the numbers on that chart, which can be a little hard to decipher. Any more questions that I can
I have one more question. These assessed value forecast numbers, is there, I don't know if you can answer this question, but
yes. I'll give it a shot.
Do you know how accurate these forecasts have been in the past?
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I can get you that information. I'll say that the council and the executive joined to create an independent office of economic forecasts 2 years ago, I believe, and because they wanted to have better numbers, and these numbers come from that office, and we have had good success with them, and the council and executive have been very happy with these new numbers. So, but I can look into that for you and get you that information.
Before you go, let me just check on this. I think we also asked what the difference was between property taxes. Please use your microphone. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I think we asked for the difference between property taxes, assessed valuation between the city and the county.
Yes. I do not have those figures, but I think that the city of Burien is going to attempt to answer that question. And that's typically information that once an annexation moves forward and we move into the public hearing process, those are numbers that we work with the city to generate so that we can inform citizens about what the tax burden, how it would be different. I will say, anecdotally, I've worked on several of these large annexations, and almost always the taxes remain the same or are less with the annexing city than they are if the residents remain with the county. That's just anecdotal though.
And why is that?
That's a really good question that's really complicated to answer. But I can work on an answer for you and get that information to you.
Hold on. That's it. Does any of the rest of the board members have any other questions on this thing?
I have a question. I don't know if you can answer this or not, but as I understand it from testimony and from my observation of the area, it looks like the Y area is fairly well built out. So there's not a lot of area left there to be developed.
I don't know. I think that might be a matter of opinion. You know, economic development planning and neighborhood planning is not something that the county does anymore. We used to do that a long time ago, and we've we'd love to be able to do that, but we just don't have the resources. Those, of course, are services that a city can very robustly provide. And so I think that the build-out potential for this community is probably right for that kind of robust discussion with some planners who have some expertise to lend to that discussion, which we just don't have.
Well, my question was going to come around to the point of frequently when we have these hearings, I find that what county zoning is will be less when it goes into the annexed area. And do you have any notion of that, whether your zoning will be more than what will occur in Burien zoning?
I think that the city can address that for you. Cities, of course, can make whatever choices that they want with zoning. But what I will say, again, anecdotally, is that typically the zoning with the annexing city is not too far off of what the county does. Of course, we just do it a little bit differently. But
I guess this would be a good point for me to make, that affordable housing is definitely not a dirty word. I hear it bandied around. Affordable housing is what houses our nurses, our firemen, our policemen, our teachers. I come from the Bellevue area. We can't house our Bellevue teachers there because they can't afford to live there. So affordable housing to me is something that's right up there with apple pie and the flag.
I did want to ask one quick procedural question regarding the county's opportunity to address information that came to light in the hearing last evening about the fire district issue. Would we have an opportunity to make a brief comment about that topic based on the information that was provided in the hearing?
I think so.
Okay.
We've got several pieces of information. Could you list this?
Okay, yes. So it appears, and again, this information was sort of brought to light through a letter that the City of Seattle provided, but it appears that the county might be concerned about what appears to be a large unfunded pension liability that might be left with the remaining fire district that's not a part of this annexation proposal. And so King County just wants to bookmark that we'd be in favor and supportive of a fair resolution to this issue where proportional allocation of the debt is put into place. Typically, the fire districts and the municipalities have a good history of working together towards this, but the county did want to get that on the record. Thank you so much.
Not letting you get away too
Yes.
easy. Could you talk about, I know in the Burke study, the city highlighted the costs, how fast the costs were outpacing revenue, for the city, and how the city is expected to see an increasing budget deficit over time because of that. Could you talk a little bit about what you're seeing in the county? I mean, based on today's numbers as an unincorporated area, and how that upkeep of that is taxing, the county.
That discussion is difficult for us to have given that the county doesn't budget at the potential annexation area level. We budget at a regional and rural level. So it's hard for me to even get that kind of financial information out of our financial systems. But what I can say is that in general, because of the way that annexations have taken place over time, what we find is that the PAAs don't generate enough revenue in order to pay for the services that are needed in them. However, the caveat to that is, of course, that cities have a much more robust set of revenue tools than the county does. We've got property tax and sales tax, that's it. And cities have a much broader array of services that they can choose to use to provide a much more robust level of services in this area. So their ability to address that gap is much better than the county can do, which is by design, really. The GMA envisions that the county provides regional and rural services, and ostensibly they gave us revenue tools commensurate with that. Cities are supposed to provide dense urban local services, and they have revenue tools commensurate with that. So. Thank you so much.
Fire district representative, please.
Good evening, Liz Eva, North Highline Fire District. Liz Eva, North Highline Fire District. Did you have?
Yes, we did. We had questions that we,
Your microphone, please.
louder. We had questions that we put together
Can you-
last night. Apparently they were not.
They were not
Closer,
provided.
please. Please speak into the
Louder.
mic. Thank you.
Apparently, you did not get the questions that were put together for you.
I did not, and what I should explain to you is that the North Highline Fire District is composed of 3 board members, and so 2 of us can't talk to each other outside of a meeting. So that puts me in a position of having to ask you to refer to the submission that we made prior to the meeting. I would like to, I know that you were concerned, however, about pre-annexation agreements. And so I would like to direct you to page 3, the bottom, relief requested. And the North Highline Fire District in that paragraph makes a commitment to working towards pre-annexation agreements with the appropriate agencies and asks for your help. I'm sorry, I can't go beyond the authority I've had at our last meeting.
Any other questions? Could you point out the sliver by the river?
It's
sorry.
by the South Park Bridge.
Could you point out? I'm sorry. Or somebody. Yeah. Okay. And where's that Delta Marine Delta?
Business that is located within what we commonly refer to as the triangle, which is not an official term, and the triangle. Yeah. Move closer to primarily a, I have another map that I pulled up this stuff. Primarily some businesses and, yes, thank you. So we look at,
It's attachment 10 to the City of Burien's Genesis.
this area right here is considered a triangle. And which of course is not part of your
Right, neither of them are. The sliver is more residential, Delta Marine more commercial.
What is the, so the sliver doesn't appear to be in any type of annexation area?
Not at this point. It is our hope that Seattle will step up and do that.
Sliver
Right, way up at the top.
triangle.
Is it?
That's
is
where the
it,
bridge goes.
It's surrounded by Seattle.
Is it land that's usable, developable, or so forth, or is it problem land that's connected with the river?
I believe that the issue in terms of Seattle is related
Yeah,
to
that's
cost.
way up that sliver up on right.
Sliver is, what consists of the sliver is primarily the South Park Bridge. So, it's the city of, unincorporated King County on one side and the city of Tukwila on the other side. There are discussions about a potential designation of that area by the city of Seattle, but we're just talking at this point.
In terms of Delta Marine, I think Seattle and Tukwila have had a PAA on that area for quite a while.
Any other questions? Do I understand we have no documented agreements as of right now as to what would happen?
That is correct, and that was why our submission asked for your help to encourage that.
Thank you. I think this concludes then the public hearing.
Yes.
Madam
Madam Chairman,
Yes.
are we suspending the public hearing?
No, I'm sorry, I'm wrong. This concludes the public testimony.
Well, last night I asked a special dispensation for one of the gentlemen that had spoken last night. And although our council has stated that they weren't going to be allowed to re-speak, may I ask him the questions that I asked to ask tonight?
Yeah, board members can recall the witnesses. And I also want to point out as well, there's still the city of Burien has the opportunity to rebut before we close public testimony.
So would it be that appropriate now, or shall I wait till later?
No, go ahead.
I would do it now, so the city hasn't even
Well,
stopped.
I'm sorry that I don't know the gentleman's name, but I recognize him coming forward. He's a real estate agent, become a lawyer.
Yeah, Jerry Robinson.
I didn't make the joke about that. Everybody knows it.
Very true.
Could you please identify yourself for the court reporter?
Gerald Robinson. I live at 1228 Southwest 119th in Burien, Washington. And as I said last night, I was a real estate agent, real estate broker for almost 20 years. Owned a real estate business in White Center for about 12 years. Sold that when I started practicing law full time.
And I presume that expertise is in real estate.
Yes.
Your practice. I too am a real estate broker, so I'm going to depend on some of the information that you gained from your practice, and that being that I'm very curious about your opinion about the values and the sustainability. I mean, obviously, the REITs or the real estate excise tax will be the tremendous help to all cities once the market comes back. And I'm wondering if you see that the values of property in this area are going to sustain themselves, or whether they've taken a greater dip than other areas have.
Well, I've been involved with the real estate business in that area since 1977. And the market shot up and down in that time. We went through a double crash in the early 80s and another one in the 90s. One of the influences on commercial properties in the area is that there's a large amount of old stock that is too good to tear down, but not particularly high value. There's been a fair amount of new construction, especially in the last 10 years or so. A lot of that has been fill-in, either in space that previously wasn't built on, or tearing down older buildings and putting up new ones. The housing stock is a similar sort of issue, a lot of older housing stock. The area has, especially in the last 15 years or so, attracted more new home construction and more condos especially. In the last 5 years, there's been a lot of construction of apartments. And that seems to be primarily from the low-income housing end of the market. You've got things like a Green Bridge and where's now Ceola Gardens, used to be Park Lake 2, where the number of units in the area are approximately tripling on the same footprint. And then a couple of other large complexes that have been built recently. As far as house values go, they track pretty much with every place else in the region when you compare apples to apples. You look at similar age stock new homes that were built. The new home construction really died out about 4 years ago, when a lot of this area doesn't have large developments of new homes. It's mostly small builders who build a couple of homes a year. And I went back to doing bankruptcies at that point because so many of my clients needed it. The new homes are selling comparable actually better prices, lower prices than new homes in areas that were comparable distances from downtown Seattle and employment centers. And they sold well. And one of the things, one of the issues I have with some of the low-end affordable housing initiatives is that there were builders building and selling houses of a for-profit business at lower prices than what is being paid to build some of the affordable housing. And but there's always been a robust demand for housing in that area. And one of the things you find when you talk to people in the area is a lot of people that grew up in the area and continue to live there. Lots of people in the area that actually grew up in the projects. It was housing for war workers, and then it became low-income housing after the war. People grew up in both those circumstances. A lot of them chose to stay in the area and buy homes in the area, build homes in the area. There was a question earlier about future development. The area is largely built out at the current zoning density. However, there's substantial capacity for more commercial space in the business and industrial zoned areas, the White Center particularly. And the area is built out at a relatively low density for the most part. The residential areas are mostly built out at densities of 4 or 5 to 6 houses per acre. And that's in line with Burien zoning code. Seattle's zoning code actually allows quite a bit higher density in residential development. And so that's one of the concerns that I've heard from people and that I have was that if not annexed by Burien, it'd be annexed by Seattle, and it'd be a substantial increase in density, housing density. And that's where the concern about the school district comes into play, because there would be a substantial, the schools would remain Highline schools. They wouldn't be Seattle schools. The city of Seattle would be setting the regulations that determine how many students are in those schools. And with with actually no influence from the rest of the Highline School District, which would be paying for the schools.
One other question, in other areas in the county where there are tear downs, we're getting new lots because it is built out. The newer houses that are built have been more expensive, considerably more expensive, and of greater value and larger than the ones that they replaced. Are you seeing that at all here?
Yes. There's one difference between this area and some other parts of the county is that large areas were originally platted out before there was such a thing as zoning in King County, and lots were laid out according to what the developer thought he could sell. So a lot of areas were platted in 25 and 30-foot wide lots. And one of the features of development you see around White Center in particular, less of it, more in the north part, central part of White Center, the old park area, that area, less of it farther south in White Center and less of it in Boulevard Park is areas where people built a house maybe on 3 25-foot lots. That house gets torn down and 3 skinny houses go in there. You see quite a bit of that in White Center. And each of those 3 houses is higher priced than the house that got torn down. And then in some other areas where you have, where it was divided into larger lots to begin with, you have some of the older stock being taken out and replaced with newer housing. A lot of it, especially in the western part of the area, was developed in the 60s and 70s and isn't quite to the point where it's ready to be torn down yet.
And I want to make sure I understood that you feel that the zoning that would come from Burien to be applied to the Y area would be give as much room for, the same kind of zone is pretty compatible.
Yes.
Because frequently I see when the county zoning goes over into an annexed area, it's much less. So we lose potential residential areas most particularly.
Well, that was one of the issues when Burien first incorporated. Not long after incorporated, there was an effort to downzone the multifamily zoned areas, which happened, which was successful. Single-family zoning pretty much just switched straight across. We're not at the point of switching all the zoning right now, but basically what we're looking at in the city of Burien is to find the most comparable city zoning to the current county zoning. So we expect to see no net loss of capacity there.
I want to especially thank you for coming out a second night to answer my questions. I truly appreciate it.
Well, I'm happy to do it. Like I said last night, I've been involved in this process ever since the Growth Management Act was enacted, and I believe strongly that it's the right thing, and that people in North Highline should be allowed to vote on it. Thank you.
We have now been sitting for roughly 2 hours, and your attention to all of this, both the boards and the audiences, is so much appreciated. We have one last very important piece of this public hearing, and that is the rebuttal from the city of Burien. So in order to be able to give them our full attention, I'd like to have a 10-minute recess, and then come back and we will conclude then the evening with their rebuttal.